Refashion Roundtable. I am Edward Hertzman, president of Rivet and Sourcing Journal, and today we'll be discussing how to get denim on track for a new normal. Even before the current crisis, denim, along with the larger apparel industry, has been in the middle of a transformation. And now, with uncertainty at an all-time high, we wanted to take this opportunity to take stock on how denim can continue to evolve to both suit the end consumer and the planet. We have a great panel today. So we have Dana Thomas, author of the book Fashionopolis, The Price of Fast Fashion and the Future of Clothes. Celine Achman, hope I got that right, head of design, ISCO Creative Room. Elena Felaschini, I probably messed that up, sorry. Global Field Marketing Manager, ISCO. Keenan Dufty, Director of Masters in Fashion Management, Parsons School of Fashion. Jordan Nordarcy, Founder and Creative Director, Boyish Jeans. Thank you, everyone. I know this is going to be an enjoyable debate and conversation. So my first question, and Dana, I want to give it to you first, is denim is a go-to in most wardrobes. Everyone kind of has their favorite denim pieces. So let's start by discussing how can those of us in this market shape the way shoppers think of a denim purchase today?
Well, let me first just sort of set up denim as what is, denim, why is there a rivet, why we're talking about denim, why it's all important. And, as I wrote my book in Deluxe, or my book Fashionopolis, you're probably wearing denim. You're probably wearing jeans as you're watching us. And it's not just because we're working at home because of the pandemic. At any given moment of the day, anthropologists believe that half the world's population is wearing jeans. And if you don't believe me, take a look around you when you're standing out in the crowd, if we ever get to be in crowds again. At church, at the theater, at school, standing on a street corner, on the subway. You'll suddenly go like, oh, jeans, 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 jeans. So we sell 6 billion pairs of jeans every year, or produce. 6 billion pairs are produced every year, and the average American owns 7, 1 pair for each day of the week. And they buy 4 new pairs every year. I wish I had invented jeans, Yves Saint Laurent confessed. They have expression, modesty, sex appeal, simplicity, all I hope for my clothes. Calvin Klein was a bit more blunt about it. He said, jeans are sex. So that's why we're here to talk about jeans and why we're here to talk about denim and how to make it more sustainable and greener and to somehow keep going in this really difficult market.
So Elena, I want to kind of now pivot that question over to you. Could you add some perspective to that?
Yeah, just before we kick off, I just want to introduce ISCO briefly for those of you that don't know the brand. ISCO is an ingredient brand. It's a leading global denim mill producing fabrics, denim fabrics, and we actually supply fabrics to most brands globally that you see, so ranging from luxury brands to high street brands, high street retailers. We have a production capacity of 300 million meters a year of denim fabric. And every time I say it, it sounds like a huge number. We can basically wrap the world in denim. We produce under one roof, which makes us very responsible in terms of production. And actually responsibility, what we like to talk about responsibility rather than sustainability, is at the core of our DNA. It's very important for us in everything that we do. Going back to your question and how we shape the way consumers and shoppers go out and shop for denim today, it's very important as an ingredient brand to work together with our brands, with our clients, in order to create an impelling story, to work on storytelling. That's definitely very important, to make sure that we give them, the possibility to pick and choose from different kinds of denim brands. As Dana was saying, most of us, and on average, there's people that have 7 pairs of jeans. There's people that have more, really like denim heads. I myself have 150. I've been working in the denim industry for 15 years, so I have quite a few. But at the same time, it's always really important to keep an eye on the industry and to understand, the evolutions of the industry. And I think, as ISCO, we think that there's 3 important elements to focus on when it comes to shaping the way consumers look for a new pair of jeans. One of them is innovation. So as ISCO, we place a lot of investment and time in terms of innovation, whether it's within our R&D department or focusing on what we call responsible innovation. So making sure that everything we do is sourced responsibly, and we also educate the end consumer in that sense. Innovation regards denim fabrics and technologies. So we focus a lot on providing technologies that are interesting for the end consumers. For example, we've patented Future Face, which is better known as jog jeans, a few years ago, and that's something that has come up again, of course, with homeware quite recently. We have an athleisure collection called Arquus, which is more focused on athleisure and the possibility of doing even sports in jeans. So it's really important to keep up the trends with innovation. Secondly, creativity, which is something that we're going to talk a lot about today. So tapping into creativity and making sure that we link innovation together with creativity to keep up with the fashion trends. And last but not least, competence is really important. So making sure that also as an ingredient brand, but as also an end consumer brand, we're reliable and we're also trustworthy to the end consumer. So putting these three together, creating an impelling story and making sure that you educate the end consumer and you tell them, you give a lot of storytelling to them to shape the way they shop for jeans is really important. And as an ingredient brand, ISCO really works together with the brands to make sure that happens.
Thank you. So let's talk about spring, summer 2020. So let's imagine for a moment COVID never happened. What was on track to be some of the hottest trends for the season? And then now, due to the recent events, what do you think is going to land in stores? And what do you think consumers are going to want when they go into the store? So why don't we start with Celine?
Sure. Let me just unmute myself. So yeah, I'm going to start by explaining what Creative Room is. Creative Room is the design and research department of ISCO. So we have a fantastic research and design team here in Istanbul, in Italy, and also in Shanghai. So we're all working together. And coming to the trends, let's say one of the biggest topics, obviously today's biggest topic as well, is sustainability. But we don't want to communicate this and talk about it as a trend. It's not a trend anymore. It's a must for everyone, and it's also a must for us. And there are different ways that we're approaching sustainability. Today, I'm just going to talk about the two ways that we're approaching, which is from the fabric side and also the design side. From the fabric technologies, we launched ISCO R2, and this consists of reused cotton and recycled polyester. And another technology that I really love from ISCO, which is quite new, is the ISCO Wild, which is a substitute for fur. It's a denim fur. It's a fantastic idea. It was really trendy among designers, and everyone was trying to make these denim furs, but they're so difficult to make that you have to hand make them. So we came up with this solution that is more, it's vegan, first of all, and then it's more conscious because it's not like it's synthetic simulations of furs. So those are some of the topics that we approach sustainability from the fabric side. And from the design side, we're constantly thinking about how we can consume less, and then how we can create designs that are timeless, that are more durable, designs that are more modular even, that we can use the same garments in different ways. We're also here in Creative Room designing in a way that we see the end product so clearly. We place also the washes on top of the design so we can see the final image better, and we're trying to reduce the proto sampling as well. This is also important for us. Well, another trend I see that is really important, that we see that is really important, is the comfort wear and the loungewear idea. And the pandemics just amplified this, because this was a trend that was really big also before this, and now it just got really bigger because people have the feeling to feel more cocooned, they want to feel safer, they want to feel more comfy, And we've got technologies, great technologies that can support this idea. Like we have as Elena said, we have FF, we have ISCO Cozy. We're working more also on these concepts a lot. I love also ISCO Pop, which feels really soft on your skin, PJ Soft, and so on. And then another trend that was really big, and it just got really bigger after this, is the wellness area. So what we're working on here in ISCO is imagine having just a pair of jeans and they just do something good for you. They have this wellness property, which is fantastic. And therefore we have the ISCO mantra, which is an amazing technology that we have. So these are the genes that give you some properties like aloe vera or coffee. They have wellness properties, which is fantastic. And this is another trend I think that is really important. Now, after the pandemics, of course, staying safe. So everyone is looking into antiviral, antibacterial properties in fabrics. So we're also looking into this. We're working on special fabrics, denim fabrics that are antiviral and antibacterial for our customers. These are the most important points, I think.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really good point. I think there's going to be a really big need for this. You know, it's just not about wearing a mask. People are going to want this this protective quality in a lot of garments moving forward. And it's just not going to be a yoga pant or, you know, an athletic garment. It's going to be in everything that we wear.
Yeah.
Jordan, can you add some perspective as to what's on tap for Boyish for spring, summer, you know, heading into the fall 2021?
Yeah, definitely not as much as ISCO's got going on. We, you know, we're a small brand. So we definitely, we have to pick and choose our battles, especially right now. You know, I know that obviously it was mentioned previously about trying to reduce protos and trying just to reduce the amount of work that goes into producing collections is extremely important, more than ever. It's interesting because the foundation of what sustainability really means kind of translates to efficiency. And so with Boyish, we've been focusing on a jean is a jean. It's been the same way. 5-pocket jean has been made the same way for so long. We're not reinventing the wheel in this regard. So we focus on reinventing the supply chain model and how that's communicated to our customers, our consumers. You know, the most interesting part about when designing something that's fashionable is how do we design something that makes people want to come back and buy more from us, but also a product that lasts, a product that has circularity in the regard of being able to be recycled again afterwards. So for us, 2021 spring is all about trying to go more plant-based, trying to go plastic-free, trying to reduce the amount of petroleum-based chemicals like silicones and things like that within our washing and our finishings, and really trying to replace as much as we can with plant, you know, derivatives. Even all the way down to polyurethanes that are now made from natural rubbers, and applying that to you know, whatever the seasons are requiring in regards to fits. We focus a lot on using rigid fabrics because as they do not have any plastics inside of them, it makes it really easy to recycle them. It makes it really easy for us to build a product that doesn't fiber shed, and applying that that sort of mentality over to more stretch fabrics. It is obviously something that customers want. They want comfort. You know, I know that was mentioned a lot by ISCO, is that they have a lot of different collections that they're building around comfort because yes, people are working from home, and who doesn't want to be comfortable? Who doesn't want things to be soft? I mean, I love my rigid jeans, but I still love a nice, comfy, soft sort of feeling, whether it be a t-shirt or whether it be jeans, no matter what. And the interesting part coming from the American side is that, you know, I know that in the European fashion that things typically have a more dry hand feel. And with the American side, we typically have a warmer, softer hand feel. And so these are the things that we can also apply into our designs, is figuring out what are the aesthetics that maybe connect our end consumers to the product to give them the sort of feelings of comfort, not just in comfortability by wearing it, but also comfortability in a sort of emotional response. In a time where there's so much emotional unrest.
So Dana, can you talk a little bit about what you're hearing from the consumer side. We got definitely the product side, the product development side, the brand side, but what are you hearing from the consumer side?
Well, there's a couple of things. First, consumers are definitely wanting clothes in general that are better for the environment and better for humanity. There's a whole generation, sort of the under 30 customer, the same kids who are pushing for veganism and plant-based diets. They're very aware about planet and humanity, and so they want clothes that are responsible, and they want clothes that when they discard them won't ruin the planet. Yes, there's also a whole huge population that still wants fast fashion, meaning that they want inexpensive clothes, and that's where the rub comes in, because super fast fashion, cheapo clothes, the 1 pound bikini, as they were talking about from Boohoo last summer, that is not going to be responsibly made. Somebody all along the supply chain got squeezed for that retail price to be low. But they want to be able to get great jeans at a reasonable price, not necessarily cheap, but at a reasonable price, and they want to know that it's good for them and good for the environment.
So, all right, let's pivot a little bit. So as we talk about what consumers will be looking for, we're really going to start to understand what they value, because that's what they're going to probably purchase first. In some ways, this industry, for better or worse, has taught shoppers to undervalue their clothing purchases. We could all just look at the massive sales that happened across the board, even pre-COVID, 50, 60, 70, 80%. It's basically free. Keenan, I know you discussed this in your class. What's the problem here, and what's your suggestion on how to go about fixing this problem?
Well, I think a denim jean has a very unique place, coming from a utility garment, if you look at it historically, and then being absorbed by the counterculture. So for the counterculture of the late 20th century. So it's a symbol of function, but it's also a symbol of rebellion. And that's very timely for the moment that we're in right now. The denim jean can exist at many different price points and yet still have an integrity. And that's, again, something that is really unique to this type of wearable item. You can have an inexpensive denim jean. You can have an ultra expensive denim jean. And within all of that spectrum, there can be an integrity for the wearer. So I think, what we discuss a lot in the Master's Fashion Management program is actually helping the consumer to understand the value that has gone into designing the garments, the value of the materials, the ingredients that go into building and making the garments, and the innovation that adds to that process too. So all of those elements are so important. And having worked as a designer with ISCO and having a relationship with ISCO as an educational and learning center for our students, I think the storytelling aspect of what we do in this industry is so important, because you've got a history to speak about, you've got a point of innovation to present, and you've also got the value of the design. And we also discuss accessibility a lot. I think that's actually a very important factor. I was looking at a report today about the imbalance between the household earnings of white families versus black families in the United States. And if you think about the spectrum of users and wearers of denim, it's super broad, it's global. It encompasses folks with many different income levels, but many are looking at this product for some of the same reasons. They're looking at it from what it represents as an icon. They're looking at what it can do for them in terms of utility. They're looking at durability, and also they may be looking at longevity. They may be investing in something inexpensive or at a luxury price point that actually is a living object. In terms of indigo, it's a living thing. It lives and it evolves through its lifetime, and its lifetime intersects with the wearer's lifetime. And I think all of these factors are so important to consider, that unlike many garments, indigo denim is alive, and it takes on a character. So that again adds to the overall value of the garment, the investment that's been made by the designer, the creator, the builder, the maker, the retailer, and ultimately the wearer. It has an amazing life cycle, and then it's a garment that can easily be recycled as a vintage piece. The collectability of denim is phenomenal, and maybe I'll talk a bit about that later. But I think it's the storytelling aspect that is super, super important. That's something that ISCO does very, very well. Mm-hmm. We invited Fabio Di Liberto, who's the brand director from Milan, to come to speak to our students in New York. And he actually made a presentation that was shown at Milan Design Week, which was a very immersive presentation called The Sound of Denim, where ISCO had commissioned a sound designer to actually create sound from denim. This brought to life a whole new aspect of the denim jean, which was what it sounds like. We often talk about the sound of fabric, but that's again another part of the storytelling that is so, so important. So it's understanding the value, communicating that to the consumer, and telling that story in a really compelling way.
Jordan, I want to hear your perspective on this as well, being a brand. But I just want to make one comment to the audience. I see a lot of questions coming into the chat box, but for those that do want to ask a question to the group of speakers today, on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, there's a chat box, and you just go up bigger and smaller. You can enter your question in there. We're going to do our best to get to every question possible. And in the event that we can't, which we will not be able to, we'll definitely send it to the respective panelists, if you will, and try to get them to respond. So, Jordan, back to you.
I thought it's a very compelling answer you had, Keenan. I agree on many parts. The denim is alive. The beautiful patina of indigo and how it doesn't penetrate the yarns and the way it cracks off and wears off is a unique sort of characteristic of the fashion item jeans. And there's nothing really, the closest thing you can get to it might be leather, but that still doesn't nearly even compare to the reaction that you have with denim, which is why a lot of consumers build these sort of personal relationships with their jeans, which also means it's very difficult to sell jeans to consumers, and the reason why many people don't make jeans in their collections for a lot of fashion brands. I've seen a lot of brands try and fail because it is definitely an emotional attachment that people have. You have to learn how to tap into that emotion. It was also said that you can get jeans that are, all the way as cheap as under $10 to jeans that are, as close to $1,000. The uniqueness of this is it really creates a broad spectrum to figure out who your consumer is. Who is your girl? Who's your guy? For us, we're a women's wear brand, so we put together brand Bibles to really understand who our girl is, which is the most important characteristic of our brand, because otherwise, being a sustainable brand, if we're trying to make products that are not even interested through our consumers, then we would be creating wasteful products that we would then have to off price and put on sale, and then devalue the product ourselves. Something that, even though I know that consumers love to get sale items, that you're always going to have those two different types of consumers. You're always going to have the people who want value and the people who appreciate it at full price and consider it valuable. And this is a difficult sort of tribute to find within your brand. You have to pretty much use data and look at your sort of business intelligence softwares that you have. And if you don't have some, you might want to get some to see how your consumers are reacting with your products, which is also something that makes direct-to-consumer brands a lot more important, or just being able to adapt and build a direct-to-consumer portal within your brand, as wholesale just drives a very long supply chain with very difficult to access information about your sales. When you're selling bulk to another store and it takes months to be able to get sales data, it doesn't really help you in the regard of keeping up with the times, reacting fast, and also limiting your supply chain to understand what is actually doing well, so you don't have to continue into products that are just creating waste. This importance is more important, especially with the smaller brands like us, because we don't have the leverage to produce a lot of wasteful products. So what we try to do is, in finding value with our consumers, is telling them the story about what went into making jeans. Like I know this firsthand because I've been to Isco's facilities in Bursa in Turkey, and I've seen how amazing it, all the different little attributes they put into it. Not just the sustainable attributes, but just the efficiency value of producing a quality fabric, which is the reason why they're able to do all these unique characteristics in their design and creating these collections, because it takes effort. And effort is something that comes at value. And value is something that can be misconstrued to being of good value, as in less expensive, or as in good value, you're getting a lot for what you're paying for. And that second attribute is something that I think brands across the board, this is brands working with mills in collaboration to help tell the story better so that consumers understand the value of what into that product. Because fast fashion completely takes that away. You don't even, it's like almost if these clothes pop out of a box magically.
I think there's one thing, I think there's one thing that, sorry to cut you off, but I think, not to get too metaphoric, and my next question is even more, abstract, but I think we have to look at value, quality, and cost, the three very different words, and they're often misconstrued. I used to use the example, I was in NYU. I used to go to this lunch place. They had a sandwich and a salad for $3.99. Everyone's like, "Oh, that's gross." I'm like, "No, it's very valuable. It's a great meal." And then there's a gym in the city. It's $19.99 a month. No, it doesn't have the bells and whistles of Equinox, but it's a great value. It still has the utility. Like Keenan said, there's a utility to that. So is it cheap? Is it so I think we have to look at it and define what those words are a little bit. But that's, again, we could have a whole 3-hour conversation on trying to figure that out. But I think it's important to note that I think people often misconstrue the definition of that. But as I said, talking about abstract, Selena, I have a question to start with you. When you sit down and you design a collection, obviously as a designer, and this is probably true for you, Jordan, and any designer, you have a million ideas. But the reality is you're constrained by some practical concerns or certain boundaries. If you were free from all these boundaries and you could design, in your opinion, what a perfect pair of jeans is, what would that look and feel like? I want to have different questions that people hear on all these other conference, webinars and whatnot. What is the perfect? I don't even know what that means, but what is a perfect pair of jeans without boundaries for you?
Well, it's that's funny, but because like in ISCO, it's difficult to feel the boundaries. We are like I feel like we're like scientists of denim. So we're constantly trying to figure out new ways, better ways, a different point of view on design, and even also in fabric. So I don't see anything as a boundary to answer your question. It's always a different point of view, trying to figure out how I can reach there in a different way. How can I design these 5-pocket jeans in a different way that I can consume less, that I can be more environmental friendly. So it's always a challenge, and it's always a different point of view. So it's never a boundary. It's always more creative ideas coming one after another. And if we come to my, what would be my, perfect pair of jeans? For me, I love, we all love denim. So, I mean, I go crazy for authentic, these heavyweight selvage denim, but I think I don't have to suffer this much as I do, because I can still have that same image, that authentic image with the performance and then the soft hand feeling. And I can have that with ISCO. So I'm just thinking maybe I should move forward and go to a more performance but more authentic looking jeans. And of course they have to be guilt-free. I have to know that they're designed for a purpose. I should feel like they're timeless, they're durable. Those would be my perfect jeans.
Dana, what's your perfect jean? You're muted.
My perfect pair of jeans are actually a pair that I bought in the 1980s that are 501s that were selvage, that you had to shrink to fit. Remember shrink to fit? So I had to buy 36 28s or 29s so that they would fit what I really needed, 34 27s or 28s. And my daughter, and then I had them tailored. Had them tailored. I had my mother take them in. And I wore them and wore them and wore them. They took 6 months to get them soft until I could sit down in them without going like, and then they were kind of perfect. And then I outgrew them, to put it politely. And they got pushed to the back of the closet, and now my teenage daughter wears them. And it's, 30 years later, and she calls them boyfriend jeans. And I'm like, they are the original mom jeans. So, for me, and they cost a fair amount of money when I bought them at the Gap in Georgetown in 1987 or 86 for what I was earning then. They probably cost more then than they would today, because our clothes have never been cheaper than they are today. Because of globalization, offshoring, and the squeezing of supply chains, prices have actually dropped for things. And I was earning a lot less money than she was. I mean, she earns 10 times more babysitting per hour than I did back then. So, but for me, the perfect jean in that sense is a pair that is so well made and it fits you so well that it can last for 30 years. You can also mix it with some pieces that have come in and out. You want some skinny jeans, you want some flared jeans, you want some high waist, you want some low waist, but kind of perfect jean is the one that you kind of tailored for yourself, and preferably is made of organic cotton and selvage and natural indigo. So when they finally do give, because with my jeans, when they start giving at the knee, then I cut them off and make them sort of like Bermudas. And then after the while they start wearing out, and I'll cut them into like short shorts. And then there comes a point where they just aren't going anymore. And I'd like to be able to put them in my compost and use that let the worms get at them, and then use it on the vegetable garden. So for me, it should have a full life, a circular life, be good for the planet, have a good life, a long life, and make me really sexy.
Can't claim to have anything that's been over 30 years in my closet, but God willing. Keenan, you have any perspective on this?
Yeah, I mean, actually, Dana gave a couple of great examples at the top of the chat. The Yves Saint Laurent example of him wishing to, I think every single designer in the world has wished they originated that 501 or 5-pocket design. It's such a design classic. And then the other example of Calvin, jeans are sex. Fashion is about attraction. It's about signifying. It's about status, whether we like it or not. Today we're sort of shying away from, in some areas of fashion, talking about fashion as being a status signifier. But it is really key for denim heads. A particular selvage edge jean, a particular cut of jean, a particular wash, a particular finish. They are signifiers of being in a clan, in a group that others don't know about. I was very lucky to be able to visit the Levi archive several years ago in San Francisco. And when I was shown one of the oldest pair of jeans that they actually own, which were retrieved from a gold mine from like the mid 1800s, it was just incredible how the integrity of that product still held up today. And the actual inspiration that came from the product was really amazing too. To see the dirt on the product. Obviously, these pair of jeans had never been cleaned. They couldn't be cleaned. The intricacies of a very simple design, it was kind of amazing to witness. So I think, when I look at Jordan's products and his direct-to-consumer business, he does a great job of talking about that woman, that girl, that consumer that he's really targeting, and that consumer is coming into a really wonderful group, a select group, hopefully that gets less select as Boyish grows and grows, but a select group of folks that actually understand what the brand stands for, It stands for fit, it stands for function, it stands for these innovations, it stands for a more green approach, a more responsible approach to making fashion. And when I kind of look at the broader scheme of the denim industry, where it started out is ultimately still where it is in a way. The DNA of it is always going to be there, I believe. And seeing the explosion of selvage denim in Japan in the late 80s, early 90s, you can understand why those brands flew to North Carolina or wherever and bought up all those old narrow looms, because they actually understood the integrity and the history and the value. When I say value, I mean value can be a Birkin bag. There's a value in a Birkin bag. There's a value in a bandana. They're different price points, but there's design, quality, innovation, and value in all of those. So I think we have a long journey in the denim industry, but the DNA of it always I think resonates. That doesn't really ever go away. I believe that is the timeless element of denim.
I want to add in here, if anybody wants to know more about all the things he's just mentioned, like the vault at Levi's or the denim manufacturing and whole denim world in Japan, I went and wrote in detail about it in my book, and I saw them making denim on antique kimono looms in southern Japan, and really get down into the story, and met with the people who those denim heads who are really fantastic. Oh my gosh, they're so enthusiastic about denim.
And if I may, this is a bit of a shameless plug, but there's a great documentary that's made by a friend of mine called Blue Gold, that kind of tracks the history of the collectability of denim. It's on one of the streaming services. I forget which.
I think you see it on Netflix. It's quite good.
Netflix. Yeah, I'm interviewed briefly in it. There are Adriana Goldschmidt. There are amazing innovators in the denim industry that are interviewed in it, and it's a great sort of great overview.
So I have two more questions, and I really want time for Q&A because they're flying in right now. So brevity. But another topic. Since COVID, there's been a lot of talk about the pace of the industry, the potential of going forward with a seasonless calendar. Elena, what would this mean from a design perspective, and what impact would that have on sales and marketing for an organization like yours, or just for the industry in general?
Yeah, of course, there's been a lot of talk around seasonless and how fashion is going to change and how we have to reset the industry. And it's an opportunity for overall all brands, all ingredient brands included as well, to rethink, maybe the processes or how we propose our collections to the brands, how we work together with the brands. However, I feel that seasonless refers more, it's going to be an issue mostly a challenge mostly for the luxury brands to handle, because it's mostly luxury brands that have driven the calendars, and the fashion shows, and they have imposed, different calendars in Paris, New York, and Milan, and they've really, over the years, the fashion timelines have been dictated mostly by the luxury brands, and those have been followed then by mostly fast fashion brands. So of course denim is also impacted by this, but as Kenan was saying before, and Dana as well, at the same time, traditional denim is seasonless. It's a matter of fact. That's how denim was born. There didn't used to be seasons for denim, because you would wear your 501s in winter, summer, no matter if they were 12 ounce or whatever. There weren't probably different weights in denim years ago, so there was no issue regarding lighter weights and so on. Of course, technology and innovation has led us to working as well, towards seasons for denim as well, which is an opportunity for us to be able to offer as much as possible to the end consumer. But at the same time, I think if the industry does, seasonless is probably an extreme word, because it's probably very difficult to go seasonless completely. So that's probably the extreme. There needs to be a gray area. It can't be really black and white. So it's good that there's a reset. But if we do take a step back, I don't think it would mean actually taking a step back for the denim industry. I think it's actually taking a step forward and understanding how we can provide more drops throughout the year, probably. So working more closely with brands. on a more regular basis to be able to work with them in a more fractured way throughout the year. And at the same time, working towards lifestyles as well that are following more what the end consumer is actually looking for, because trends ultimately have to be dictated not necessarily actually not by the brands, but it is the end consumer that shapes the needs as well. So it's true what we were saying, initially, that we help shape the storytelling, but in the end, if the end consumer looks to travel more, they want something more comfortable, they need, they want to do more sports or stay more at home, then we have to be able to provide them what they want, but it shouldn't necessarily be linked to the seasons. And having an offer that's linked more to lifestyle, so whether it's comfort, as we were saying, or maybe for the more denim heads, have more selvage in the collection, that doesn't necessarily have to be linked to specific season. On the other hand, of course, we also propose items that are by definition linked to a season. So Isco Wild, of course, what Celine was referring to before, it's a denim fur, so that by definition is linked to a winter season. But there's many different ways in which we can propose denim, and it's such a hybrid product, such a hybrid fabric that we can use in so many different ways, that for denim specifically, I see it as an opportunity going forward rather than, we need to see it as an opportunity rather than a problem or a challenge. I think the challenge, as I was saying at the beginning, will be mostly for the luxury brands and in the way that they structure their offer and their drops in the stores as well.
Celine, you wanna add to that?
Yeah, as Elena said, it's also, in ISCO, we have to communicate to so many different different brands and clients. So we're presenting our collections into lifestyles. Of course, in these lifestyles, I think it's really important to focus on what are our core essential technologies as well. I think we need to kind of figure out a way that we put all of these core essential fabrics, seasonless fabrics all together. And then I think it's also interesting to launch different innovations and technologies throughout the year. It can be an interesting point. And we're working on a digital platform so people can access it more quicker. And I think that's, it's doable. I think it can be interesting and it's important.
I think when we also talk about this, the industry for the first time is going to see product arrive in the store exactly when the consumer would want to buy it and wear it. We're gonna really go to a buy now, wear now, cycle. Now the question is whether the industry is going to pivot and go back to its old way of operating, which is putting winter coats in a store in August and then marking it down 50% in November, when in fact someone actually needs to buy it and wear it. But the hope, I think, is that if we actually get the seasons right, we could reduce inventory levels, we could reduce markdown, we could reduce all those, the stockpiling of inventory, and maybe create a little bit higher margin business for an industry that's really, suffering. So just want to repeat two things. A couple people were asking, Keenan, the name of the documentary that you mentioned, that was Blue Gold. And if I am correct, I believe it is on Netflix, but if you Google it, Blue Gold is available, I believe, on a bunch of streaming platforms. And then the name of Dana's book is Fashionopolis, The Price of Fashion of Clothes. What is this like? This turned into like the Jimmy Kimmel show. All right. So one last question, and we got to make this really quick because I really want to go to Q&A, but I don't think we can have a conversation about denim without talking about sustainability. It's worked its way in throughout this conversation already today. And the industry is doing a lot of work in this area. But how can it help eco-minded consumers seek out and find responsibly produced products? Dana, you wanna take
This is an interesting question. It's about as fractured as the supply chain trying to find responsible products. There's all sorts of platforms. There's all sorts of resources. There's a bunch of different movements trying to give you an idea, like a good housekeeping seal of approval on items. There's Positive Luxury in the UK, which has a butterfly mark. They work hand in hand with Selfridges, and Selfridges is considered the greenest department store around in the world today, not just in their use of, LEDs and escalators that only start when you walk up to them, and no plastic whatsoever, single-use plastic in the store, but also by trying to stock as much responsibly sourced and made product as possible, and then IDing it on tags, like this used less water, this is made with natural materials, this is made with organic materials. They spell it out on the tags. There's the HIG index, which was part of the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, and they rate it, and originally it was for the industry, and now it's consumer facing, or it's about to be consumer facing, so you can look up things there. There are some brands that are, and some apps that will be able, where you can trace and you can look up a product right on it. Brands will tell you if you want to know what they're made of, and then I spotlight a lot of brands in my book, and then how they're related to others. In denim, for example, there was a company there's in Oxford, Mississippi, that makes really beautiful jeans. I write about Sarah Bellows of Stony Creek Colors, who makes natural denim, natural indigo, and she supplies Patagonia and a couple other, and Imogene and Willie. There's Hewitt jeans in Wales. So it's out there if you want to snoop around, and then there are platforms and places that can steer you. Also, some of the e-tailers will tell you. They have now sections that are dedicated to sustainability. Net-a-Porter does, Matches does, where you say, I only want to source from responsible or traceable brands, and they've sort of like said, these are our green brands. So it's getting easier, but it's still fractured. And I was just talking to somebody today about how maybe we can improve, like come up with a standard that's labeling like we have in the food industry for fashion.
If I can chime in just quickly on this one, I shadow what Dana is saying, and I think the challenge also as an ingredient brand is to be able to come together with the industry to provide a globally recognized set of certifications, because at the moment the industry is completely fractured. It's a complete maze out there for the end consumer. So of course in certain regions in the world, like in Scandinavia, they're very well educated when it comes to sustainability and certifications, and they know their labels, they know the technical terms, and whether it's a pair of jeans or a t-shirt or whatever. In other regions, like in Southern Europe, in Italy where I'm from, or perhaps also in the States in some areas, they don't have as much knowledge, and it is a challenge for the industry to be able to find something that's globally recognized by the end consumer. As Dana was saying, also referring to the food industry, I always remember, I always compare denim also to, what happened in the food industry 15 years ago, where you had your bio section in the supermarket, you'd buy your tomatoes, and now it's, all together, but you know exactly, where they're sourced from. I think that's really important.
And I forgot to mention a really important denim brand, that would be Boyish.
Yes.
Speaking of Boyish, Jordan, can't talk about sustainability without getting your opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting because I wish this was happening a little bit earlier in the conversation. I noticed that we're running out of time, and this could be a very long speech on my end. I have a lot of points to add to everything. Foundationally, though, let's just remember, if we're going back on what everybody was talking about earlier, with Calvin Klein saying that jeans are sex, there's nothing sexier than sustainability. As I said earlier, we don't really need to continue to redesign the jeans. It's really just a matter of going back to the roots. I know that Dana mentioned earlier about jeans that are 30 years old that her daughter's now wearing. That is what inspired me to actually join the sustainable movement, because I noticed that as jeans got stretchier, they fell apart easier. And I actually went back to the authentic denim. I was like, why does this jean last so much longer? And there's a lot of moving parts with that answer there. Obviously, quality, weight of the fabric, the construction, the weave. But really, when it comes to consumers understand sustainability, well, that is the biggest mess, because there are so many brands out there that there's so much misinformation. And, even if you go into these stores like you're mentioning, the greenest stores in the world, whatever it is, and they have these little sections, they have so many of these brands that are doing things, and they're like, we used 1 liter of water for this jean. First of all, that ain't physically possible unless if your fabric has 98% virgin cotton in it. That's not possible at all. And that's the thing, is people don't know how to put this math together. I mean, people hate math. I like math. I like science and all that sort of stuff. But traditionally, I would say 90% of the world hates science and they hate math. And how do you relay this to consumers? You have to figure out, because at the end of the day, it's so easy to manipulate the consumers by just telling them, oh, we are radically transparent, but then do all these other crazy things behind the scenes. Or say, oh, we never said that we're sustainable. We said that we're only transparent, but then you go into their stores and you see sustainability written everywhere. But then you look at as we talk about food labels, if you open up the garments and look at the material, because remember, material is about 60 to 80% of the impact of the garment. For jeans, the LCAs generally recommend it at 60%. So let's just say 60% of this impact and 100% of that material is plastic. Whether it's recycled or not, it is still plastic. It doesn't biodegrade, it sheds, microparticles end up inside humans, and guess what? Even recycled plastics, they carry carcinogens, things that give you cancer. Because we can't forget that our skin is our largest organ on our body, which is the importance of really defining true transparency, which once again stresses the collaboration. Working with people like Isco to show people all the work, the hard work that goes into producing fabrics that are better because of X, Y, and Z. And that's important so people understand the value of the $10 jean versus a jean that costs more, because at the end of the day, there's nothing that you can't trade more than your health. And people are starting to realize that as investigative journalists in companies, like the Sourcing Journal, that start to investigate, particular industries and particular products to elaborate this information, not just to consumers, but also to the rest of the industry, which is super important, the collaboration between the industry to also help relay information. I'm not going to sell anything on Boyish, but if you do go on our website, we do try to relay as much information as possible. We put everything down into a sustainability report, down to all of our audits. One of the newest things that we're doing is we're doing toxicity testing on all of our garments to actually make sure there's no trace amounts of volatile organic compounds, neurotoxins, carcinogens, or anything crazy like that. And every single piece of fabric and everything that we do, we make it to where it's recyclable. We use all of our waste to recycle it back into our fabric, because the Higgs index states at the top of their LCAs that recycled cotton is the best fiber you can use. So once again, collaboration between all the tools comes together to help. And if you need more help than that, you can visit websites like goodonyou.eco. They do a really good job rating brands and also elaborating the things that people call sustainable, like bamboo or viscose, which is actually very harmful due to the chemical process that comes in. And also most of the people that produce this have awful water treatment plants and dump hazardous chemicals that go into the water streams and kill people. But the price of fashion. Oh, bullhorn for the end of that.
That's New York City for you. It's actually calm right now, thank God. All right, I'm going to try to combine some of these questions together just so we can get through as many of them as possible. Elena, maybe you could answer this. I see a lot of questions about organic cotton, and it's also been mentioned several times throughout this conversation. What does organic cotton mean to the panel? Many have mentioned organic being a key ingredient, so would like to hear the definition.
What does organic cotton mean? You mean to the end consumer, or? Well, I think, again, I'm going back to the understanding of what sustainability means in different regions. If you go to Scandinavia or in other countries where they're more educated, on what organic fabrics mean or what sustainable products mean, they probably have a better understanding of what organic actually means, or what organic grown cotton means, and what it means to have organic cotton fields. If you go into other countries like in South Europe, then the understanding of what organic means, it just means that it's something that is bio, which is good for you. So they look for organic products thinking that, they need to spend more money on it, which is not necessarily the case. We do have fabrics that blend organic in as well. Part of our Earth Fit collection, which was launched 4 or 5 years ago, Celine, correct me if I'm wrong. That's the Earth Fit collection that contains a certain percentage of organic, but not, of course, all the collections have organic in it. It can have different meanings depending on the understanding that the end consumer has. I think going back to what Jordan was saying, and the kind of understanding that different like brands in the West Coast probably have, what he was referring to, the different materials that are included in denim fabrics. It's really important to be transparent as much as possible to explain, you know, where the organic cotton is coming from, what percentage is also included in terms of organic in a fabric or not, because of course there can be a fabric which is 100% organic, but sometimes brands communicate that it is organic, but you need to look at what percentage it is. So going back to understanding the life cycle assessment and, you know, the environmental product declarations of a fabric to understand what the composition of a fabric is about. I think that's important. And that's something that we do as ISCO as well. So if you go into our EPDs, which are the environmental product declarations, you can actually have an understanding of the LCAs of every single fabric that we have in our portfolio.
I can weigh in here a little bit because I went to see the mother of modern organic cotton, Sally Fox, at her farm in upstate California. And she explained it to me pretty basically for, you know, in layman terms for readers, you know, who aren't specialists. And she said today about 1% of all cotton produced today is organic, meaning that it requires no chemicals. There's no herbicides, there's no pesticides, there's no GMOs, there's nothing. It's just old school, 6,000-year-old strain, you know, cotton like they used in Greece and Rome and Egypt. You know, you just plant it, it grows, and you pick it. And that's different, though, than sustainable cotton. And you'll hear a lot of brands saying, like H&M, for example, says that they're going to only source sustainable cotton, I think, by this year. I remember them saying 2020, and we're in 2020. But sustainable cotton is not necessarily organic. Sustainable cotton means it's not conventional cotton. And conventional cotton is a very dirty product that has all sorts of chemicals, that's GMO, that requires basically one kilo of chemicals per 1 kilo of cotton. It's also why people say it's a thirsty plant, because it's been manhandled with chemicals and in laboratories to the point where it's producing 6 times as much per plant than it would naturally, organically. Actually, organic cotton likes to be stressed and doesn't like water, but this thirsty plant is the one that's been like, it's like a Franken cotton. But sustainable cotton means it's probably GMO. It is GMO. 99% of our cotton is genetically modified today, but it uses less chemicals. It uses less herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers, because all that's been built into the genetic engineering that they've done of this cotton. So it is better for the planet, but it's not as clean as pure 100% organic.
There really should only be one sustainable. If it's not organic and they want to call it sustainable, the only thing that can be is the transitional cotton to going to organic. It takes 3 years for farmers to transition to organic. And in that process, these big fashion brands, the reason why they're using sustainable cotton, is because it's still cheap as hell. And so it's a way for them to make margins while also adapting to this sort of green culture, which is the reason why we use these phrases, greenwashing, exactly. And that's why the only thing is transitional cotton to organic. It takes 3 years. These big fashion brands should be supporting that, not these other half-assed sort of stuff. Sorry for my language.
As Stella McCartney said, and I put in my book, she said, if organic cotton is seen as a luxury, then why aren't luxury brands only sourcing organic cotton? And if they did, there would be more.
That's lack of interest. I mean, they just don't care. Yeah.
Well, there's many different sides to this story, but we don't have much time to get into it. I have a question, Celine. You mentioned a lot of new developments that ISCO is either in developing or has developed, the fur and the antimicrobial and all this other stuff. When are some of these things, are they available? When are they hitting the market? Because I see some questions about people wanting to inquire about these fabrics.
Yeah, sure. Well, we already have our the fall winter collection ready, and we are planning on adding some of these antiviral properties fabrics also, and we will launch soon our digital platform, so also people can reach out to us from there to see our new innovations. It's very soon. It's difficult to say for me if it is a date, but it's very soon. Soon it will be reachable to everyone.
Okay.
It'll be reachable also online, so it's fantastic. So everyone can go and check it out.
So the last question I have is really more about the supply chain around. And again, I will for everyone in the audience, I will circulate the questions to the panelists and see how many of these we could get answered. But there's a question about the supply chain and will just-in-time manufacturing of jeans as the model going forward, will that really be what we see? That'll reduce the need for the finished garment inventory, excess inventory, that'll reduce the environmental impact in terms of waste, the financial problems in terms of liquidity and cash being held up in the supply chain. Do you see a just-in-time denim manufacturing model happening, Dana? Muted. Mute.
Yes. Sorry, my dog is snoring, so I keep muting. Now, do I see what in the supply chain? No, I've forgotten.
Do you see us going to a just-in-time manufacturing model where we're not going to be predicting about?
Yes, I do. And I think everyone's going to do this. And it's simply because zero waste is better business. Today, we produce 100 billion garments a year, and we sell 80 billion garments in the fashion industry in general. 20% don't even hit the retail floor. They're just destroyed. And that's a lot of waste. And people say, but economies of scale. Well, economies of scale really doesn't make sense if you're growing all this material, you're making all this material, weaving and dyeing and cutting and designing and putting it out just to throw away. I'm not sure how that's actually a really smart business model. So I think to reduce waste, not only for the environment, but also for the bottom line, you will see more made to order. And we can, because of the fabulous technology we have out there. Factories are being refitted. Factories have been sitting empty for 30 years because of offshoring, are being refitted with state-of-the-art technology and state-of-the-art machinery, robots and lasers and all this really fabulous, cool 3D printing. And they'll be able to react really quickly to the orders, and maybe they'll ship directly from the factory to the consumer. And I think the place where that's going to be most wounded is the middleman, the wholesaler. That layer of the supply chain is going to take a big hit as we become more direct to consumer, direct from the factory, made to order, responding quickly and we'll be able to do things like, because of 3D scanning, we'll be able to order things that are made to fit us, like coming out of the virtual fashion industry for gaming, which I think is really, really interesting. So you won't even have to worry about shrink to fit and sitting in your bathtub like I used to do in the 80s. Your jeans will come, and getting my mom to sew them on her old Singer, they will come fitting you.
So there was some questions about laser and how that will, change or how that's, evolving. But just Isco, either Celine or Elena, do you want to take it? Do you see brands shortening their time to market, asking for a quicker turn, less units, less inventory? Is that something that you're seeing on the manufacturing side?
Do you want to answer, Elena?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think it was for you.
Oh, okay, it was for me. Okay. Well, yeah, I think, yes, some brands will definitely go in that direction. I don't think all brands will go in that direction, but I think now that they're sort of resetting their timelines, we're already seeing this happen, actually, that some brands are sort of reviewing their collections. Others are not seeming like they're going to change their calendars for now. But I think in the long run, they will also probably change their processes as well and definitely review the calendar. I think, again, going back to what we were talking about before, relating to seasonless versus, having season in place, we'll have to sort of wait and see what happens and understand within the next seasons how the inventory is managed. Also, I think what happens in the next few months is going to be important because, of course, retail stores have been closed. The amount of stock has piled up. Many brands, as far as I see, from a global perspective, are still trying to get an understanding of how they manage their stock. Whether it's bigger brands or smaller brands, they're all quite in the same situation. And even if they're, big brands with big purchasing departments and, very set forecast procedures in place, they really don't know what to do. I think we'll have to wait and see in the next few months how this is managed and what happens with the industry. But I think definitely that's going to happen.
All right. I want to, I think everyone would have jumped off at 12 o'clock, but I still see that there's quite a bit of people on the webinar and still asking questions. So if you guys don't mind, how about one more question? Let me go. Let me look. See, maybe.
Dana, you're on mute.
I saw quickly somebody asked when I was talking about cotton, what about BCI, which is the Better Cotton Initiative? And that's one of the terms for sustainable cotton, which is sort of that middle ground cotton that isn't as bad as conventional cotton, but it isn't as clean as pure organic. Better cotton is exactly what it sounds like. It's better.
It's funny because I looked into a lot of these sort of better cottons and stuff like that, and it typically just ends up being a PDF that they send to the farmers and to the mills, and then everybody has to pay for it, and nothing gets audited. No one's actually double checking if they are actually following the rules. And there's a lot of middle ground there because of a mass scale sort of concept that they try to create, which is the reasons why there is only really one true organic, and that or true sustainable cotton, which is organic. And in the process of getting to organic, we need to be supporting organic farmers to make that transition.
How can denim be more durable? I know that's a very technical question, but I mean, you mentioned, Dana, you had a pair of jeans for 30 years. That's sustainability at its greatest, right? Someone like to take that? How could we create a more durable jean?
Less plastics.
Well, indeed, jeans were the original sustainable garment when they were invented for the miners 150 years ago. Those rivets weren't decorative items. They were to hold the seams together. And as Keenan saw in Levi's, those jeans have been around 150 years that they have in the vault, and were passed down from miner to miner. I would guess it's just, how to make them more durable is to, I mean, there's the whole, which is another webinar altogether, is the whole concept of washing. And, of course, when we stonewash jeans, that beat them to a pulp, so they last less time. But, the process of distressing gives them a shorter lifespan. So if you want really durable jeans, I mean, you tell me, Jordan, but I would guess that would be selvage, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, wide roll is also great. It just depends on the weaving and the spinning. So a lot of people are using really thin yarns and making thin, very stretchy fabrics, which once you start putting it into the wash and the dryer, they get destroyed, which means they only last typically somewhere a couple months to maybe a year or two at max. Levi's jeans, they're like 14-ounce, 100% cotton with a very tight spin to the yarn. So that is very important to look at. A lot of the fabrics that I create with Boyish, they typically end up being somewhere around 13 to 15 ounces. We spin Tencel, lyocell, and or even nowadays we're using the recycled version, which is Refibra, into our jeans. And these fibers actually have a stronger sort of tensile strength than cotton. And we blend that together with the organic cotton to create a very durable jean that is also all made from plants and that is also completely biodegradable and also 100% recyclable. So we are way past our 12 o'clock finish date time. But I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. I'd like to thank all of the Rivet readers for joining, for logging in, all the speakers, thank you. And of course, thank you to ISCO for making this possible. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or anyone on the panel. And as I mentioned, we'll do our best to distribute the questions to everybody. Thank you again, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.